I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Go ninja, go ninja, go! Go ninja, go ninja, go!
Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Norris, Van Damme. For these titans of the action movie genre, the 1980s were an especially great time to be alive. But when the 1990s rolled around, they were entering into an entirely different ballgame. And while some barely got out of the decade with their careers intact, none of these action stars would fall as hard on their face as in the case of Mr. Steven Seagal. While the 90s started off with a string of increasingly bigger successes for the martial artist turned actor, Seagal was earning himself a bad rep behind the scenes. After a series of sexual harassment allegations from Warner Brothers employees were settled out of court, and his hosting gig on SNL got him banned from the show after being declared the worst host in SNL history. And when Seagal's massive ego trip of a directorial debut with On Deadly Ground flopped hard with critics and audiences, he would try to kick his career back to life by trying his hand at buddy cop comedy, by playing the title role in 1996's The Glimmer Man. It was around this time that Seagal claimed to have had a spiritual awakening, wherein he decided that he no longer wanted to kill people in his movies, and Warner Brothers obliged the newly woke Seagal by having him split bad guy beating duties in his latest movie with an on-screen partner played by Keenen Ivory Wayans, who, after recently wrapping up his iconic sketch comedy show In Living Color, wanted to transition back into a movie career by playing a wisecracking LA cop on the trail of a psychotic serial killer who gets paired up with a transferred New York City cop with a most mysterious background. But not even teaming up with a Wayans brother could help Seagal save his fledgling career, as proven by The Glimmer Man's poor critical reception and failure at the box office. And after one more theatrical flop with Warner Brothers the next year, it was off to direct-to-video limbo with Steven Seagal, where his career still resides to this very day. And since I promised to watch more Seagal movies after reviewing his failed theatrical comeback Half Past Dead, now is the perfect time for me to find out how The Glimmer Man took the shine out of Steven Seagal's movie stardom, and began his transformation into a glazed ham with a goatee and an Eddie Munster hairline. Forget The Glimmer Man, Steven needs to think about playing the Slimmer Man. Get it? Slimmer? Because he's fat? Since the stores are no longer carrying cans of Steven Seagal's lightning bolt, you'll have to find another bitter tasting substance that'll make you throw up, so you can fight off the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink every time you see our film's mass serial killer about to commit another murder, as his trail of bodies in the city of Los Angeles is being followed by the wisecracking police detective Jim Campbell, played by Keenen Ivory Wayans. And where most buddy cop movies would take their time introducing each of our cops in their separate environments before they get paired up together, this movie just pairs our two cops right off the bat, when Campbell walks into his office to find his transferred partner from New York City, Detective Jack Cole, played by Steven Seagal.
Yeah, I heard about you. I wasn't expecting you so soon. We work as a team around here.
You know, the way I work is, I just kind of like to solve the case. I don't really care who gets the credit.
Well, considering that he's listed as this movie's producer, I think Seagal actually does care about who gets the credit. Campbell gives his new partner the rundown on our serial killer, who has killed 6 families in the past 8 months and leaves their bodies crucified on the walls, and goes by the name of the Glimmer Man.
We call this guy the Family Man.
Oh, excuse me. How silly to think that the serial killer is associated with the scary sounding nickname that provides the title of the film. I meant to say the Family Man, because nothing says homicidal maniac like sharing a nickname with a Nicolas Cage romantic comedy. Ta-da! So after Cole looks over the killer's latest crime scene while wearing one of the many stupid looking jackets worn by Seagal in this movie, he and Campbell attend to a hostage situation over at a nearby Catholic school, where a suicidal student named Johnny Deverell holds his class at gunpoint after getting the idea from a banned Stephen King book. And Cole busts into the classroom to save the suicidal teenager's life by tackling his ass through a window. Okay, I know that criticizing the logic of a Steven Seagal movie is as pointless as arguing with a cat, but the only way that these two could have flown directly through these two parallel windows is if Seagal was assisted by one of the angels in the fucking outfield. We next find Cole and Campbell thanked for their gravitationally impossible rescue by the boys' rich stepfather, Frank Deverell, as played by Shawshank Redemption's evil warden, Bob Gutton, a businessman and secret crime boss who sends out his security guard, Donald, to Lieutenant Cole's precinct so he can convince Cole to testify that Deverell's stepson was temporarily insane, only to find that this new cop will not be intimidated into breaking the law.
You tell your asshole boss that nobody threatens me.
I understand.
Now get your ugly white ass out of here.
I'm sorry, did he say what I think he said?
Now get your ugly white ass out of here.
Did Steven Seagal forget for a second that he's not the black comedian half of this buddy cop duo? You cannot insult somebody for being an ugly white ass when you yourself are an ugly white ass. So Cole and Campbell head back on the trail of the killer by stopping into a Chinese herb store, where Cole shows off his lighter side by pulling a prank on his partner.
Yeah, just put this underneath your tongue. It's perfect for allergies. Clear it right up.
What is this?
Just a little bit of powdered deer penis.
Ho, what a merry prankster you are, Mr. Seagal. I think we now know the secret ingredient of your energy drink, Steven Seagal's lightning bolt, now infused with extra Bambi dick. But little do Cole and Campbell know that Frank Deverell is planning to have these two pesky cops be taken care of by some of his associates in the Russian mafia. And this is where Cole reveals to Campbell his religious vow of non-violence.
I can't fight, man.
What do you mean you can't fight? It's a fine time to tell me now.
Yes, much like Seagal himself, the character of Jack Cole has become a Buddhist who has sworn off his once violent ways. So I'm sure he will de-escalate this fight in a calm and peaceful manner. Or he could slice the mobsters' throats with a fucking blade hidden inside a credit card. That works too.
For a minute there, I forgot you said you can't fight.
It's not that I can't fight. I'm not supposed to. It's against my religion, you know?
Oh, great.
I'm a Buddhist.
The Kung Fu priest.
Actually, this happens to be totally in line with Buddhist philosophy. After all, like the Dalai Lama himself has said, all problems must be solved through dialogue. The use of violence never solves problems, unless it involves slicing a dude's throat with a credit card knife, because that is totally badass. Well, even though it took 20 minutes for Seagal to go back on his promise to no longer kill people in movies, perhaps he'll get to demonstrate his dramatic skills after Jack Cole finds out that the family man's latest victims happen to be that of Cole's ex-wife and her new husband. Surely this will have him breaking down in tears and screaming towards the sky, or he could just look like he's doing his worst Robert De Niro face.
He killed Ellen and her husband.
You did what?
I gotta go tell my kids that their mother is dead.
Come the fuck on, Seagal. You can't whip up a single tear from your eye? Can't you at least try to think about your dog dying or something? Oh, right. Meanwhile, Campbell asked one of his fellow officers at the precinct, as played by George Washington Duke himself, Richard Gant, to dig up some information on his mysterious new partner, and all they find is that Cole's fingerprints were found on the corpse of his ex-wife.
You found your print at your ex-wife's house.
She's my ex-wife, you know, I pick up my kids there all the time.
The print's on the body.
Planted.
But although Cole refuses to tell his partner about his mysterious backstory, his antics captured the attention of Cole's former boss at the CIA named Mr. Smith, played by the great Brian Cox, whom Cole meets up with in an Italian restaurant to ask for help in tracking down the family man.
It's about the serial killings, and I know you know all about it.
Yes, I do.
You know, the last two murders were definitely the work of a pro, not a serial killer.
You see, this is what distinguishes Steven Seagal from all those other loud and shouty action movie stars. He's got that quiet, whispery voice that you can barely understand. Kind of like Bob Ross, but with a more ridiculous-looking hairstyle.
Take your little sensitive ponytail and your little sissy beads and get out of here, okay?
I have something in my pocket right now to completely clear up that bruise on your forehead.
What Bruce?
Well, that vow of non-violence crap has just been thrown in the trash by now, hasn't it? I'm starting to think that Steven Seagal just joined the Buddhist faith because he thought those Tibetan prayer beads were actually candy necklaces. Now, although this movie is clearly trying to be a Lethal Weapon style buddy cop comedy, its plot and visual style are blatantly ripped off from a certain David Fincher thriller that came out 2 years prior named Seven. You have a mismatched pair of interracial cops going after a serial killer who bases his murders around a religious theme while they live in a city where it's constantly raining. But where it took till the end of 7 to discover the killer's identity, the Glimmer Man only reaches the halfway point when the cops discover the identity of the Family Man, named Christopher Maynard, as played by quintessential character actor Steven Tobolowsky. And when Cole comes into a church to confront the religiously devout psycho, Maynard confesses to him that he was not responsible for those last 2 murders.
I only killed who I was told to kill.
The Rostovs? The Dunleavys?
I was spared them. Someone else was called.
But before he can elucidate, Maynard threatens to shoot Cole dead, and Cole is given no choice but to bring down their prime suspect. However, according to a YouTube interview with Steven Tobolowsky, his character was almost left alive in the film due to an intervention from Seagal's quote-unquote spiritual awakening.
2 months later, I get a phone call from John saying, "We have a problem." Steven started ad-libbing in the rest of the film how he's glad he didn't kill the guy in the church. Is there some way you could come back in and in ADR make it seem like you're not dead? Finish me off, you son of a... Come on, don't leave me like this. Kill me.
And as if you couldn't already tell from that absurd anecdote, this movie is truly the point where Steven Seagal began his downhill slope into the chubby and egomaniacal Seagal that we know today. From the black shirts he wears to hide his slowly developing gut, to the fight choreography that usually involves him standing in one place and slap fighting with his opponent like 2 little kids fighting over a toy in the backseat of a car. Now, to his credit, Seagal does make somewhat of an effort to keep up with the comedic stylings of Keenen Ivory Wayans.
She got nice tits.
Precisely, Grasshopper, but a little bit too nice.
He believes he's listening to Jesus himself.
You learn well, Grasshopper.
But you may also notice that he's trying to adopt a very questionable black voice whenever he's acting against his black co-star.
And pig, that's an old phrase. Y'all must not be from around here. I ain't always been a cop, that's all I can tell you right now. You got a number or something?
Forget the Glimmer Man. A more appropriate name for this guy would be the Wigger Man.
I love nigglers, alright?
So now that Cole is suspended from the force after being cited as the prime suspect in his ex-wife's murder, we turn our attention towards Keenen Ivory Wayans, who is easily more charismatic than Seagal is. However, the jokes that are written for him here are so bad that you would think they were actually written for Marlon Wayans.
Do you know I'm black? I have no idea what you're saying. If I need a cleansing, I have a bran muffin. Thank you.
No, I'm allergic to the incense. I'm gonna go suck on some deer peanuts. I'll be all right.
And the only substantial thing about his character is his love for old movies, as Cole finds him bawling his eyes out to Casablanca inside of a movie theater.
You never seen Casablanca?
You're asking me if I've ever seen Casablanca?
Me? Never seen Casablanca?
Have you ever seen Casablanca?
No.
Campbell, I think this is the beginning of a forgettable friendship. And after Cole gets into a fight with the second Family Man murderer that features a cameo from John Woo's Flock of Doves, he comes to find out that one of the second killer's victims was a Russian translator for Frank Deverell, who was helping her boss smuggle nuclear weapons out of Russia so that Deverell could sell the weapons to his Russian mafia buddies. And we come to find that Bob Gunton is working in cahoots with Cole's former CIA boss, as Brian Cox finally tells us the story of how Jack Cole came to be given the name of the Glimmer Man.
I found him in Vietnam, recruited him for a special projects unit. He was known as the Glimmer Man. There'd be nothing but jungle, then a glimmer, then you'd be dead.
Well, out of the 2 names that Brian Cox has given to secret government agents in movies, I'm gonna say that Wolverine is a far cooler handle than the Glimmer Man. That name sounds more like a mirror salesman in New York City. Hi, I'm Larry Glimmerman, and I'm cutting prices all weekend long here at the Glimmer Man's Mirror Emporium. These mirrors glimmer like crazy! So Deverell sends out his bodyguard Donald to eliminate the 2 snooping cops, with Campbell's apartment being blown up in a blaze of fire, and Cole being dragged from his house by 2 Russian mobsters posing as FBI agents, both of whom are dispatched by Cole by whapping them over the head with the handle of their gun. Because I guess Buddhists are allowed to kill people with guns, just as long as you don't actually fire a bullet from them. And after both cops survive their attempted assassinations, they arrive at the home of Cole's former CIA boss, Mr. Smith, so he can tell them all about Deverell's weapons smuggling scheme.
I'm sure I have no idea what you're talking about.
Really?
Jack, I know we've had some harsh words in the past.
I don't don't think they're torturing Brian Cox because they want him to tell them about the smuggled weapons. I think it's because of that cartoonish southern accent of his, which sounds like Foghorn Leghorn meets several bottles of bourbon.
You work for the government. Why would you, of all people, help Devereaux?
To get rich, son. To get rich. Why else? Would you gentlemen mind calling me an ambulance?
Listen, I only shot you in one foot. Hobble to a hospital.
Fuck your ambulance, asshole. There's only one man in this movie who does unconvincing accents, and his name is Steven Ivory Seagal.
Vladimir Putin.
The two cops happen to record Smith on tape confessing to his liaison with Frank Devereaux, and after they play the tape back to Devereaux over the phone, he offers to give up his bodyguard Donald in exchange for keeping the confession under wraps.
My name gets clean, your name stays clean. Everybody's happy, how's that?
Done.
But what's this? They record Devereaux over the phone and play that tape back to Donald so he finds out his boss is selling him out to the cops.
Guess your ass just got sold down the river, shithead.
Oh god, this is getting too complicated. You filmmakers do know this is a movie where Steven Seagal slices people's throats with a credit card, right? And not a Christopher Nolan spy thriller? So with Devereaux and Donald arriving at a low-rent hotel to sell their smuggled weapons off to the Russian mobsters, Cole and Campbell rush in to ambush the drop-off just as Donald confronts his boss over being double-crossed.
Positively Shakespearean.
To be? Or not to be?
Indeed, this ending does remind one of the works of William Shakespeare. It was William Shakespeare who originally wrote Reservoir Dogs, wasn't it? Lawrence, stop pointing yon broadsword at thy father! After Cole and Campbell get into a bloody gunfight with the Russian mob, where Donald finally shoots his boss in the head, that's for what you did to Patch Adams, you asshole! The cops flee in hot pursuit of Donald through the halls of the hotel.
Where do you live?
Around the corner.
Well, get your ass around the corner. And take little Whoopi Goldberg with you.
Okay, I'll admit, that joke was pretty funny. Although the mantle of Little Whoopi Goldberg actually belongs to Buckwheat from the Little Rascals.
Whoopi!
Then Donald pops up on Campbell and shoots him through a window, with Cole able to rescue his dangling partner from the window ledge thanks to— oh, you gotta be fucking kidding! He just happened to bring some spelunky gear with him? Suck on that, Bruce Willis. Steven Seagal always comes prepared to rappel down the side of a building at a moment's notice.
Get your gun or you're getting excited, man. Get off me.
So now comes the big showdown between Jack Cole and the murderous bodyguard who killed his ex-wife, where Seagal fends off the killer's attacks with some more of that ancient technique of Shanghai slap-away.
Take your best shot. No, I said best shot. Boring.
Hey, wait a minute, Seagal. It's not your job to mock these fight scenes for being boring. That is my job as the movie critic. Thank you very much.
If that's the best you got, I'm just gonna have to kill you.
Is that all you got?
Uh-oh, Steven. You might want to avoid getting into a chokehold. Remember what happened with Jean LaBelle? Not to worry though, because Cole throws Donald through a plate glass window and impales him through the bottom jaw like Timothy Dalton in Hot Fuzz.
You don't look like you're gonna be waking up happy now.
Okay, Seagal, between that lame death quip and the several murders you've left in your wake, I think the monks at the Buddhist monastery are gonna have a long talk with you about your membership. And so we end our film like every other buddy cop comedy. The angry police captain puts Seagal back on the force, Wayans is headed to the hospital for his injuries, and our partners bicker with each other one last time before the credits roll.
Not one good thing has happened since I met you.
Yeah, but you got to try powdered deer penis. That should count for something.
Don't call me, Jack.
Oh, of course! How could you end this movie without calling back to that immediately classic powdered deer penis scene? Oh, what a hoot! I can't wait until Steven Seagal pairs up with another cast member from In Living Color for The Glimmer Man 2. May I suggest Jim Carrey reprising the role of Fire Marshal Bill?
Let me show you something.
The Glimmer Man happens to have two things in common with the previous awfully 90s summer subject, Nothing But Trouble, with William Sandell providing the production design and Warner Brothers editing the movie down to a threadbare 90 minutes to make it feel more like a typical Steven Seagal vehicle. And while Seagal tries to lighten up his tough guy image here, he's usually more funny while trying to act serious than when he's trying and failing to be funny.
My friend, you know, he's a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll. Hey, could I take those CDs? They look like I could still use them.
So while it's an obvious failure as a serial killer thriller or a buddy cop comedy, it's at least an entertaining failure that gives you yet another chance to laugh at the blues-playing, pants-pooping, Putin-loving bag of unintentional comedy gold that is Steven Seagal. Too bad that Keenen Ivory Wayans never thought to suggest him for one of the lead roles in White Chicks. Now there's an alternate version I would have killed to see. Yeah, I'll pay for that Gucci dress, alright. Do you take credit or debit? And on the nudie watch, I could talk about the scene where Seagal and Wayans examine the Russian woman's silicone-enhanced boobs, but I don't want to. I want to show that clip of Steven Seagal dancing, damn it, and I am going to show that clip of Steven Seagal dancing. Look at him shaking his groove thing. He truly does put the booty in Buddhist, as well as the sexy ass in sexual harassment. Okay, fine, I went too far with that one. I'll stop it there. On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, the Glimmer Man proves to be only a slightly more competent officer of the law than Steven Seagal himself, and shines his ever-loving light on a 7 out of 10. If Seagal thought facing a serial killer was rough, just wait until he hears what Charlize Theron said about him. I'm Jesse Shade for JoBlo.com, and since this movie's part of our awfully 90s summer, maybe it would have been better if it starred a certain cast member from the TV show Friends, and subsequently got renamed under the far catchier title of The Glimmer Man.
Vladimir Putin.
Are you Detective Jack Cole?
Yes.
Have you ever climbed Mount Everest?
Yes.
Okay, let's begin.